is your relationship like with Buster?
You know, there was a period of time when I was away from here, obviously for 20 plus years, and I was actually at East Carolina and Auburn. I think in the time period, timing-wise, what was his last year here? Yeah, so I was at East Carolina right in the thick of it, coaching Manus. So I was watching from afar, and you knew the capabilities that he had, and I actually recruited him a little bit at East Carolina, out of South Georgia. That didn't get real far, but you could see that this guy could play any position on the field. You know, he could play shortstop. He wasn't the fastest guy on the field, but he was quick and agile. Played short. He could jump on the mound and pitch. You could have put him at third. Clearly, he could have gone to first. Probably could have played second. And then the move behind the plate was something that obviously changed his career. His representation of everything that is good in the game, on the field, off the field, with his family, with the community, with the global baseball world is as good as it gets. So that's what I admired the most, and it'll be really exciting to have him back here Saturday and have his family on the field and have a chance to honor him in that complete day.
Because he's an ambassador for the game, he's also an ambassador for this school and what he means to this school, right?
Yeah, like he's everything you could ask of somebody that put on the uniform, and thank goodness he put on ours, and then obviously left us and was a world champion twice, I believe, right? So, but it's also the way he did it. There are people that have probably had similar careers, but I don't know that there are people that have carried themselves the way he carried himself here and clearly beyond, and he's down to earth, and we're very appreciative that he would spend this time coming back to allow us to have a day for him.
What's your relationship like with Coach Bell?
Coach Bell's one of my closest friends, and these are tough weekends. I've coached against Mike now, I don't know, this is the third time maybe, and his assistant played for me, Ty McGahee. His assistant coached with Coach Restano at Monmouth. Ty came back to Auburn and coached with us at Auburn, helped us win a championship in the SEC West. And Drew Linder is the director of player development for them. He spent a lot of time with Mike in that bullpen, catching and helping groom Florida State's arms in the capacity he could when he was here. I'm actually in Mike Bell's house when Mike was coaching here. He built a home here, and I was struggling to find a place to call home in Tallahassee, and that house popped up. He was in it 5 nights, sold it to another family, and I ended up getting the house from that family. So we're very tight, and we talk about the game, we talk about our families, we talk about the industry. This industry's tough. What it's like to coach at Pitt when the bulk of their practice in the preseason is indoors, similar to what we did at Notre Dame. It's a tricky template to get to this moment where you're coming south to open ACC play. Mike Bell's a great human being. They got a talented team. They did great getting the transfers. They have 7 transfers, I think, that are impacting what they're doing. So they're good. The last time they were here, I think they swept Florida State. They played great. They're not going to be concerned with the environment here. They've been through that in this league. They know what it's about, and Mike's a fantastic coach and a great man.
I think you mentioned, they've played like 1 home game so far, and most of the games have been in Florida. So, having navigated that schedule, at Notre Dame, how does it feel to be, to see an opponent like that and be on the other side of it now?
It feels nice to sit here and talk to you guys versus sit in the O'Hare International Airport for 4 hours waiting to get on a flight that you've already driven 2.5 hours in the wrong direction just to get to the airport. So this is nice. But for them, they've been down here all week and they've had some games under their belt, and they're just coming up from playing like in South Florida and then played the University of South Florida, and then they'll come up here and practice. So this is probably an easier template for them to get into the Friday night game than what they've had to do out of the gate.
How big are relationships like the one you have with Coach Bell in this industry, just to bounce ideas off of guys and to just kind of go through the roller coaster of the season?
You have a core group, and he's right in the middle of my core group of people. And Chris Hart, who played at Florida State, who's at NC State, who coached my son, coaching kind of against my own son and with Chris as a coach. You go through some of these moments that there is a unique dynamic to it. And Mike is a guy that we talk about how to manage teams, how to try to take care of facilities and what we need to do to try to keep up the rules of the game, the pitch clock. Do you want a fourth umpire? What are the thoughts on replay? What should we do with the travel roster? What should we do with the scheduling? When it's COVID, should we play all ACC games or should we go beyond? You have your network of coaches that are you're closest with that you talk about all of these things. Then you talk about your own families, like what my son was going through as a player. Mike coached against my son at NC State. And our daughters, I have a daughter at Alabama. He's got a daughter that's a senior in high school that's navigating the last stretch run of where to go to college, and his son's a 9th grader who's playing baseball. So there's just so many common factors in our relationship that make it very special to me, and he's a sounding board, not only in baseball, but in life.
We were talking to Colton a little bit ago. He talked about you kind of just saw him, I guess, hitting lefty in the cage one day, and it kind of led to, I guess, what was it about that? I mean, that made you think he could kind of maybe be a switch hitter? And how impressed were your guy? I know he said he'd never really done it competitively. How it seems to have taken to it pretty well.
We were in the cage, and I was trying to get to know everybody, and we're trying to teach them what we're doing with the work we do in the cages. And I just saw him over in the corner. I don't even think he was in the group that was hitting at the time, but he was swinging left-handed, and out of the corner of my eye, I'm like, we really are so short left-handed hitters. I mean, if he could do that, maybe it eases things a little for him, like facing right-handed pitchers right-handed where all the good breaking balls are working away from you. And I asked him, I said, Colton, that's pretty good. Have you done that? He's like, Coach, it's been a while, and then I've hurt my arm, and I kind of put it down, and we just never did it again. And I thought it was worth trying. I mean, the fall's the time to try things. And initially, like the transition from the cage into the game setting was a little tricky for him, I think, understandably. He hadn't done it in a long time. But the at-bats were still competitive. And he started shooting some balls this way, and then every once in a while, like you've seen, he'd kind of turn on one and surprise you with some pull side pop. And he's had some huge hits. And it does, from a lineup perspective, he and Nander both, if we didn't have them switch hitting, we would have one left-handed bat in the lineup, which is not how you draw it up. And they've functioned. And Colton, what he's done behind the plate has been awesome, like in the just pitch by pitch, blocking and receiving, and having to do it over and over with a lot of rest, minimal rest. He's been great.
Colton told us he's never done it in a game until here. Like not in Little League, not in middle school, high school. What is that? To not do it for the first 15 years or 16 years of your baseball life, and then to do what he's doing now.
He's fresh at it. I don't know. That's right. I don't know. It looked good to me in the cage, and I know the offensive side hadn't been something that was clicking for him.
Do you think that helped too? Maybe you want to try something different when he had the season he had last year, like
100%.
Almost kind of nothing to lose here.
Yeah, let's go. Let's give it a shot. And when you have right-hand hitters around you, if you're one of the few lefties, at least the pitcher is looking at something different, and maybe you get some more mistakes to hit. I don't know, but maybe I didn't dive deep enough into that he had. But what I saw looked just fine, and I thought it was worth trying. And again, in the fall, like this isn't something I would have just drawn up yesterday if this had happened in the cage yesterday. But when it happens in August or September, you have some time to play around and let them try it, and clearly it's been okay.
To clarify, he said he had practiced a lot. He had just never ever done it in a game before, not in any time of us. But he had practiced even here against 87 sliders and stuff in the cage.
Yeah. Well, he's done it now in the game.
Yeah, he's done pretty well.
Is the same rotation, same order this weekend?
We're going to go Bowmeister, Crowell, and Montgomery. It just lined up. When you looked at how last week transpired, Wyatt was extended a good bit. And he wasn't going to be able to throw Tuesday, and it didn't look like Friday was super realistic, but the way it had gone, it made sense to let him start. And I was so impressed with Jamie Arnold out of the bullpen. Like the velocity climbed up, and Jamie loves the ball, and he wants the ball. He doesn't care when. He bounces back well. We got to have Army better. Oxford's got to continue to click. We know Whitaker. We've gotten some consistent outings out of him, out of the bullpen, and if Kirkland can keep developing, it's still new to him. And David Barrett, then you have some other options down there. Now, how we use those guys, time will tell, bullpen-wise, but Wyatt clearly was capable of starting. It's just out of the gate, like we discussed, having some experience backing up inexperienced starters seemed like the way to get us through the first couple weekends of this thing.
These first 12 games for you and Chuck, how much of it has just been kind of over preparing and seeing what guys can do in different roles and knowing where guys are comfortable and where they're not?
There is some of that. As much as we try to practice and prepare, when you get into game settings, dealing with the ups and downs of even the pitch by pitch performances and giving up a 2-strike hit, and how can you rebound? Can you work your way out of a jam? We haven't played great defense, but can we continue to contain and manage? Rarely are you going to play perfect baseball games. There is going to be base running traffic to deal with. Some of it self-induced, some of it maybe from a defensive miscue that you have to become your own relief pitcher from time to time. So as the starters settle and keep growing into those roles, that'll help shorten things for the bullpen. And if we can increase the data we have on who faces lefties and does a good job, like Army and Oxford and Arnold, maybe that's a good group to face some lefties. Maybe some of those guys, as the numbers build, show you that they're just as good against righties. So then you start to build that data and you learn new things once you have competitive in-game metrics to look at. So that's where we are right now.
Going back and watching Carson's outing on Sunday, just I guess what you see that FGC was able to take advantage of?
He just didn't look comfortable on the mound, and that group's skilled, physical, old, thousands of college at-bats, and they make you pay. He didn't manage a left-handed hitter. I think they hit 3 home runs. The lefties hit 3 home runs, which, I mean, they're good, but clearly if you're making pitches and executing and keeping the ball down, you shouldn't run into that. He's just got to be better in all phases. The fastball command, it's got to be better. Thought his slider was okay. The cutter wasn't kind of what it normally was, and his changeup wasn't something he was getting close enough where it was really a usable pitch. So he'll get there.
Let's go last one.
Any update on Diamez, how he's doing and his?
We're not close to that one yet. So not this weekend. I don't even know if next weekend is realistic, and the same thing with Holbrook.